Killboxes work. They are efficient, they are optimized, they kill raiders. But after a while, I realized something else was dying with those raids. Things like fun, satisfaction, pride. When your entire strategy becomes about cheesing the AI, boredom slowly starts to creep in. You stop feeling the pressure, tension, all the things that make survival games so addicting. Killboxes make the game so easy that it doesn't even need to be played anymore. They are ugly too, and terribly boring. They look so stupid, and yet they are the #1 weapon against enemy raids. In this video, I want to show you that it doesn't have to be this way. If you abandon killboxes and unleash your creativity, there are many things you can do with your base. To the point it looks and feels like a real stronghold. If this resonates with you even a little bit, come along and discover other ways to defend. Ways that don't feel like cheating and are extremely fun. Let's briefly talk about those killboxes, and then we will move on to alternatives. For those of you who don't know, a killbox is a structure designed to abuse enemy AI basically. Most normal raids always choose the easiest available path. They also can't see traps, so players force raiders through narrow corridors filled with spike traps or IEDs. A common example is a 2-tile wide corridor with traps on one side and fences on the other. Another example is the one you see in the thumbnail. The first part is usually a maze, built to slow raiders down and force them to exit in a single file. After that, you have your regular shooting range, with your pawns at the bottom, covered by wall barricade wall setup, and on the sides turrets to distract your enemies. Pretty standard stuff, but very deadly. I am mentioning this because there is another reason you might want to look beyond killboxes. After patch 1.6, they became slightly less effective. Still extremely optimized, just not as broken as before. Back then, players used sandbags with gaps between them because raiders would bump into each other, back out, and massively slow the entire raid. They were also unable to stop on obstacles, which forced them straight out of the maze into your firing line. This is no longer the case. Now, raiders can stop on obstacles and return fire. They will also try to use the exit of corridor as a cover. And smart raids will also actively avoid traps and prefer walking over obstacles instead. So, what is the alternative? The simplest answer is use terrain to your advantage. Where you choose to land matters a lot. Riverside and mountainous maps are both excellent choices. Mountains provide natural cover and often limit the number of entry points. Sometimes you will spawn with only 1 or 2 sites from which raids can realistically approach. That is unless you drill deep into the mountain and reveal the rest of the map. This feels realistic, I mean, after all, mountains are sometimes hard to reach from all sides, right? Rivers, on the other hand, have different advantages. Those areas are rich in slowing terrain like chest-deep moving water, shallow water, and mud. They also provide a reliable power source that isn't affected by the time of the day and eclipses, water mill generators. And yes, bodies of water are also great for disposing of other bodies, and in general unwanted stuff. Just set dumping zones away from your colonist's eyes, and nature will take care of the rest.
What do we do about the bones? We do this. This is what we do.
Okay, now let me make one thing clear. I am not here to tell you, build it exactly like this, or this is some meta-optimized stuff you just need to copy exactly as it is. No, I respect your creativity, I just want to give you some practical tips. So, let's start with the basics. Every terrain tile has a movement speed modifier. The slowest ones are chest-deep moving water, shallow water, and mud. These areas should naturally become the entrances to your base. You have probably heard this advice before. Pause the game immediately after landing and then do X, Y, or Z. In my opinion, one of the first things you should do is scan the map and then plan the rough layout of your future base. It saves you time and frustration later. This brings me to the planning tool. It's a very powerful and often overlooked feature. You can sketch layouts, make corrections, and experiment, all without spending resources. You can plan storage rooms next to workshops and kitchens close to pantries. This massively improves base logistics. It may seem like a little thing, and obvious one at that, but when you're building things on the go, things can go sideways. Skipping planning often leads to random buildings placed wherever there is place, and a base that feels inefficient and messy. But enough about that, let's get back to defense. When planning your base, make sure exterior wall is thick. 3-4 tiles wide is usually enough. Avoid attaching colony buildings directly to the outer wall. This way, sappers won't break straight into your bedrooms or storage rooms. Whether you build a single megastructure or several smaller buildings is entirely up to you. Just leave some space behind the outer wall. That space becomes your second line of defense. Your first defensive line should be built on open terrain. Use the worst possible ground for attackers, avoid flooring, don't place any sources of light. In fact, you can even build the roof over this area and keep it dark. Darkness in this game slows pawns down without affecting their shooting accuracy, which is crazy, but this is how it is. Place traps generously. Traps are expendable. Your pawns, well, they are expendable too, but much harder to replace. Your first line of defense can combine traps with lines of obstacles. Avoid making vast fields of barricades or sandbags though. Through my tests, I discovered that it currently works like this. Raiders are slowed down only when climbing the first obstacle, and then after that, they can walk normally on top of other obstacles. Those obstacles also add to their cover, even if they are on top of them. The answer to that is by making rows of obstacles like fences, divided by rows of free space, ideally with a lot of traps. Downside to that is the fact that you will provide some cover for the attackers. That is why fences are your best bets, as they provide the least amount of cover while granting great movement debuff. At the entrance to your base, you should make strong firing positions for your own pawns. The wall barricade wall setup still provides the best possible cover for your colonists in vanilla. If enemies get too close or you become overwhelmed, you should be able to retreat quickly. Adding incendiary surprises when raiders breach the first line is always effective. It is a good idea to floor this last area with something flammable, like for example wood. Your second line of defense can be another firing line or a melee block. A melee block consists of 3 melee pawns in front of one gap, or doorway for example, with shooters close behind. As long as they stay within 5 tiles, there is no friendly fire. In order to lure enemies to your defenses, leave the doors open on the side you want normal raids to attack from. And this helps guide non-sapper raids and manhunting animals into your defenses. Now let's talk about defensive strategies against different raid types. Sappers and breachers usually come in smaller numbers. The key here is predicting where they will strike. Look for the part of your wall that feels least secure. That is exactly how Sapper AI evaluates targets. They calculate cost and safety, but they can't see mines or traps. They will, however, avoid turrets, so keep that in mind. Prepare those areas in advance and make sure you can reach them quickly. Sappers are often more focused on breaking through walls, than fighting your colonists. With thick walls buying you time, they're usually manageable. Sieges are pretty simple to deal with. Simply make 2 or 3 mortars with shells stockpiled nearby, and target their mortars. After dismantling their position, they will always turn into simple raid. Simple as that. Mechanoid raids are the most dangerous. Centipedes in particular are real run enders. They are immune to fire and have massive health pools. My answer is uranium slug turrets. They have long range and excellent armor penetration. Just maybe don't place them right next to your colonists, and it is best to partially cover them with walls to make their explosion range smaller. Pair them with spike traps to slow mechanoids down. For traps and doors I recommend steel. Steel is easy to come by. And in the late game in general, resources aren't the issue. Survivability is. Against mechanoids, you should retreat from your first line sooner than you normally would. You want to force them into melee, where they are far less effective. Funnels also allow you to use EMP grenades more efficiently. And yeah, I prefer grenades over launchers. They have bigger AoE and are easier to use. You just simply order your colonists to throw them on the ground in front of the choke point. And this is it. It's better than targeting specific enemies, trust me. It is always a good idea to have your armory near your defense lines. Ability to switch between AoE weapons like grenades and rocket launchers is especially handy. If your outer wall is 3 tiles thick, you can make escape corridor, like this one, and leave the doors open while retreating. This way riders won't destroy walls, and after exiting the corridor they won't be able to take long shots at you in groups, compared to the breached wall situation. And this is about it. This was a longer one, so thank you for staying until the end. The next video is coming soon. Until then, take care.